Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Aaron Wilson. Aaron Wilson is a venture capital investor, author, and serial entrepreneur who has blazed a trail in an array of industries, including, but not limited to, technology, human capital, private aviation, and private equity. He received his bachelor's degree in business from Binghamton University School of Management, where he currently sits as a board member, and started his career in finance at JPMorgan Chase. Wilson is a co-founder at Approved Jets, one of the country's fastest growing private aviation companies. At Approved Jets, Wilson and his co-founder, Kelvin PJ Kev Mensah, service a robust client base that includes, but is not limited to, the NBA and NFL athletes, physicians, attorneys, technology entrepreneurs, and private equity professionals. Approved Jets came to fruition in 2019, and since the company's inception, they have generated over $30 million in revenue through organic growth strategies. Well, good afternoon, Aaron. Welcome to the show.
Oh, good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Brian. I really appreciate it. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you as well. And, we go through different time zones, different weather patterns. As you know, we're going through some very tornadic weather here in Kansas City. So I'm going to hold on my hats, cross my fingers that the power doesn't go out, but hold on. So Aaron, jumping into your first question, could you briefly walk us through your journey from your career at JPMorgan Chase to becoming a co-founder of one of the fastest growing private aviation companies, Approved Jets?
Absolutely. So I started out my career, my post-undergrad career at JPMorgan. I was an analyst. The role was focusing primarily on just auditing-like functions, working directly with the external auditor at that time, which was Deloitte & Touche. But it wasn't quite what I was looking for. So I was looking for something that was significantly more dynamic, something that could be a lot more fast-paced, something where I could be strategic with the moves that I was making. And the role I was in just seemed a little bit monotonous. So I was actually considering going back, getting my MBA and rebranding myself, getting into a front office deal side kind of role. So potentially investment banking or in like an M&A capacity or doing some work in equity research, when I'd actually spoken to a recruiter who had suggested that I take a look into recruitment prior to enrolling in an MBA program. So I took a look into human capital consulting and recruitment, fell in love with it, and was fortunate to excel pretty quickly. Started my own firm in Manhattan alongside a former colleague, and we were fortunate to be able to scale that pretty quickly. I did realize during my time in the recruitment space that I developed an affinity for hypergrowth startups. There's just so much more of an ability to make an impact as opposed to working with the more established Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies. So while I, of course, did enjoy working with the more established enterprises, it was just a different kind of feeling that you got when you were able to have a measurable impact on a startup. So I had eventually transitioned out of the recruiting space and began working in the technology and startup space. And that's where I met my co-founder, Kelvin. He was the head of sales at a startup. I was actually the strategic advisor to the CEO. And one day he said, I think that based on the client base that was built and based on the impact that we had where we were, we could do a lot more and in a more robust way if we went out on our own. And that's when Approved Jets was brought to fruition back in 2019.
Love the story. There's a story for every podcast, and I love the ones, the entrepreneurs that really get out there and hustle. So I really do appreciate that, Aaron. And jumping into the next question, with the expansion into approved experiences, you've entered what you describe as the Lux Tech industry. How do you define Lux Tech, and why do you believe this is a critical area for innovation?
So how I define Lux Tech is operating at the intersection of innovation and also servicing the luxury, leisure, and lifestyle space. Those three L's, luxury, leisure, and lifestyle, completely embody and cover so much, right? As it pertains to consumer goods, as it pertains to different types of lifestyle-oriented products, as it pertains to travel and everything that people aspire to want and aspire to be. And it's often overlooked because we focus more so on utility driven products. And when I mean we, I mean in the emerging technology landscape. So with that, the Lux Tech space is super important for innovation because there are big spenders who are in the space and they want things to be easier. They want things to be more convenient. They want to be able to live their lifestyles on demand. So we've found an interesting opportunity in the market, and we're hopefully doing the right things to be able to satisfy a need and solve problems for individuals.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And it's interesting how that works in a business. You start to see the market shift, or there's been some sort of disruptive changes and you have to adapt to it. Or in your case, maybe another opportunity here. So I appreciate the share. And Aaron, the Approved Experiences app was released in its beta version recently. What are the core features of this app and what makes it stand out in the luxury travel market?
Absolutely. So the Approved Experiences mobile app, it's something that has been a long time coming. We're fortunate to have a very, very strong lead engineer, James. He's excellent. And what we've been able to do is focus on a few different core functions. Now, we're going to continue to add some features as we go along, but some of the primary functions are membership to our social club for the elite. That's one component of, the Approved Lux membership. In addition to that, a 24/7 concierge. And this concierge can do everything for you, from making dinner arrangements for you, or sending a loved one flowers, or booking airline tickets for you, your hotel, ground transportation, arranging pickup for your dry cleaning, you name it. In addition to that, we also have a proprietary news content feed that's curated for our users based on what we know they like. Also, we offer access to empty leg private aviation charters at a heavily reduced rate. So if you're not familiar with empty legs, hypothetically speaking, if someone were chartering an aircraft that was based in Miami and the aircraft was going from California to New York, that aircraft would have to be repositioned from Miami to California to pick up the passengers and then go to New York. So essentially that aircraft would be flying empty, as we would say, from Miami to California. So that leg from Miami to California would be at a heavily reduced rate, just so that it's not flying empty. And these are some of the opportunities and access that we afford to our members. And last but not least, you have access to our luxury marketplace. The luxury marketplace has access to private aviation charters, access to villa rentals, yacht charters, exotic and luxury car rentals, ground transportation, and what's coming soon is fine dining arrangements as well. So those are some of the core features of the application. And the membership goes for $99.99 per month. We're in the Apple App Store right now.
That's awesome. Thank you for breaking down some of the services that you offer. And an app makes it obviously very convenient. And then as you shared some examples of how you can provide some deep discounts for some flights. So I appreciate that. And Aaron, last question of the day. Looking ahead, what are some of the upcoming technology products you're most excited about in your suite of offerings?
Oh, that's an amazing question, Brian, because, man, I'm excited about everything. Sometimes I have to contain my excitement, but one of which is our end-to-end booking process that is implementing and leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning within that booking process. So our technical advisor and board member, Zhenbin Zhu, has been heavily involved in us scoping out exactly what incorporating some of these more complex data science oriented technologies would look like. And it's something that we find really, really important, especially in the Lux Tech sector, recommendation technology, and then also streamlining the experience so that vendors and customers, both by leveraging our end-to-end experience, end-to-end platform, don't have to do a lot of back and forth when it comes to booking. Because the more time it takes to book, the more cumbersome a process it becomes, the more irate both individuals on both ends become, right? The client who's waiting for the prospective vendor to get back to them becomes irate because they want what they want now, right? the vendor may become irate because they're not necessarily getting a response from the client in a streamlined capacity, but they're getting information that's piecemealed as opposed to consolidated all at once. So to further explain that, on the front end, we have a AI chatbot that's going to be implemented in the form of a concierge. On the front end for our vendors, we have a KYV is an acronym for Know Your Vendor. We're coining that phrase in the financial services space. We're so used to hearing KYC, know your customer, know your client, but something that is super irresponsible, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say it, is that knowing your vendors, especially when you're operating in the luxury space and you don't own every single luxury asset in the world, knowing your vendor is very, very important. And we're trying to stay very far away from ever becoming close to being a peer-to-peer platform when it comes to vendors and clients interacting. If you're a vendor, you have to be an established business. If you're an approved experiences vendor, and we take them through the entire KYV process to ensure that. And that assists us with mitigating the risk of quality or the integrity of the quality of the experience of our clients being hampered.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well,
I didn't look at it that perspective, but know your vendor obviously it's important to you because at the end of the day, that vendor needs to do a great job for your clients, but you want to respect the vendor and the great service they provide as well. So thank you. And thanks for sharing some of the technology in that space and you're developing. So I appreciate that. And Aaron, it was certainly a pleasure having you on today. And I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Oh, Brian, I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to speaking with you soon as well. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye for now.